September 30, 2025. This is the S&P 500 E-futures mini on the 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. What the chart looked like today, there was a JOLTs Job Openings report that came out right around 7 o'clock Pacific Standard, which is right about here where you see this big spike up. And other than that, there was really no other economic data that came out. Now, President Trump did come out and say some things that right about here, but it really didn't move the market. Overall, the profile was this very choppy range that I had trouble kind of locking in because initially I thought there was some kind of resistance here, and then I thought maybe there was a bottom of the range here. And I also saw some kind of resistance here where prices were respecting. And I also saw another little support here. Later, I found maybe this is a resistance, and then this is the low end of the range. So the actual range might be contained between these two bigger, bold blue lines. But to be honest, I was playing this gray one pretty much most of the day with these big overshoots. And then later, it looked like it kind of rallied up this multi-leg push, sold off, and then this is really more towards the last 15 minutes a day, pushed up on these two-legged red up channel, but I just called it one big red up channel, sideways and sold off. Other than that, I saw a few setups, and then some setups I didn't like. They might be actually valid setups, but I didn't like because either the signal bar wasn't right, or meaning it wasn't most optimal, that I just kind of skipped it. So I did mark them down as almost trades, and then otherwise I marked them as these black arrows of things I noticed. I did take one trade today, and it was successful. It was a failed second entry long or quick 1 point scalp. I tried to get a runner, but it didn't work out. So I'm going to go into the trades right now. So it was very noisy today. So as I said, I had trouble finding the true highs and lows because it looked like it was having some intermediate bounce points. So you had to wait for a lot more price action to pan out to see where there was actual consistent support, which is like maybe down here, and consistent resistance. But even then, they had some failed breakouts that kind of threw you for a loop because you weren't sure if it was going to continue outwards. So the pre-market was just this really choppy sideways price action, sold off, bounced. Now this is just messy. This is a bunch of legs up and down, up and down, up and down. So I didn't even try to mark this, but this was in the pre-market, and I don't trade the pre-market, so it wasn't that big a concern. Pushes up, sold off. In the pre-market, you do have a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. This is the signal bar for your second entry long, which isn't right here, which isn't that great. So it pushes up on the open, first entry short, second entry short. I mean, you could claim there's a second entry short with a new low here, but this is also not a good signal bar because your signal bar technically is this green one. And this one never ticked above it, and it flushed down, and then it closed higher up. So buyers were able to push it back up. So nothing I really like there. Go ahead and let's see here. Okay, there we go. Then it sold off. Looks like it's first entry long pullback, potential second entry long, but this blue line doesn't exist yet. So you don't know what you're really bouncing off of. This is just a nothing. I'm going to go ahead and try to simulate what I saw in real time. So you don't really know there's going to be a second entry long, and you really don't have anything to bounce off of. So pushes, hits this consolidation area. That's when I first drew. Maybe there's support right here. I thought there was a resistance. So early on, between this big bold blue line and this bottom bold blue line, that was the range I was playing. And I did have some kind of lower support line where this gray one is. It's a localized new low. It's a first entry short pullback. Unfortunately, there was no second entry short here because there's no break below. Pushes up. I'm thinking there's a failed breakout of this blue resistance line. So far, it looks like it. Pushes down. Just gets sideways. So technically, it looks like it's two clean legs down. Then it continues downwards. Breaks out of this low level support area. So I'm thinking there's another failed breakout. Comes all the way down to here. When it hits here, I drag my range low from where this blue line is, and I established it down here. But I preserve what I initially thought was some kind of support area by making it a blue line. So in other words, this blue line and this gray channel swapped spots. And then I also did the same thing on the high end. I moved the high side of the range up to this potential resistance point, and then I drew a new blue line here. kind of going through my thinking and how I drew the lines in real time. Pushes up in this orange up channel. Technically, you have a new low, localized low, first entry short. Technically, I have a second entry short, but I don't know to go short here yet because I don't know, other than there's two confirmations, that this is going to be my third confirmation. Plus, it ended green, so I wasn't quite ready. Pushes down. Now I'm looking for a lower high, ideally into this range. But it doesn't. It pushes back up, pushes up and out. So I'm now not really thinking of going short now, just kind of waiting. Creates a failed breakout. Technically, you have a new low, first entry short, pullback. You might have a second entry short here, but I'm not liking this signal bar. So although there's a failed breakout of this gray range, this isn't very convincing to take a trade yet. Pushes down. So you do have a confirmed second entry short. I'm concerned that I might have a breakout pullback. In other words, it might bounce off of this gray line here. Granted, the break of this orange up channel has tested the high. So now pushes down, so it's back into range. So I'm thinking there might be a trade coming up. Pushes down, and it creates this lower high. Now this lower high is a break of this orange, tested the high, came back down through and into the range. It has a really strong signal bar close, but the only way I feel like you could have taken this trade was when this ticked up and engulfed this bar and broke below this guy. So you'd have to put your order down here. Of course, in real time, you don't really know that's going to happen. So if you were quick and you were more aggressive, then maybe there's a trade here for a lower high, which is down. And then this actually sets up for my trade. So I saw a new high, I saw a first entry long pullback, second entry long. Now I'm thinking we're still playing inside this larger gray range. So there's a fail breakout on this side. I'm expecting a move all the way down to here, potentially a bounce point here, but I'm thinking there's a break of the green down channel, needs to test the low. There's a possible trade here. So I actually entered when this bar here, this red one, was nearing the end of its life. So I have a 2000 tick chart. This is counting down, and right at the end, almost before the close, I drop in my order. It pulls back and fills me pretty much at the low, one tick below this guy, but at the low of this guy almost. So it pushes down, gives me a 1 point scalp. I move my stop from up here down to one tick below my entry. And unfortunately, it flushes back up and takes out my runner. Then it continues downwards. I mean, if it didn't take out my runner, this candle would have taken out my runner. So it's my one and only trade. Which is it consolidates off of here. So now I was thinking this gray lower level here, maybe it's actually, so I'll just go through what I was thinking in real time. I have to unlock this. I can unlock it. But unlock this. So again, I was thinking maybe this is my range. And then this, yeah, there we go. Trying to bring this back down to here. So I reversed the spots. I was thinking the range might actually be here, and this could be treated as a failed breakout. And I drag this guy over here. So then this is what I was thinking at that point in time. Pushes up, hits here. I saw this localized new low, first entry short, potential second entry short. Unfortunately, the signal bar was green. So I'm watching, pushes, and it creates this double top. And I was thinking, actually, could it be a first entry short, visual second entry short? Despite the fact that this is actually lower low, I counted this together. First entry short, second entry short. Again, this signal bar isn't the best. And the follow through wasn't that encouraging. Pushes down. Creates a second entry long here, localized high, first entry long pullback. Second entry long should actually be here. But you don't get the confirmation till here. There was a support area here, but it feels a little iffy. I might be in the middle of this gray range that I was playing, but I wasn't sure. So prices push up, pushes back down, pushes down here and breaks out, hits the low. Now it's pressing through this support area, pushes down. I considered a fail breakout of this. So I was thinking there could be this channel in play, this gray one, or this range, or maybe this gray was actually initially back down to here. So I'm not really sure. I'm just thinking I'm definitely ranging, but where the actual support and resistance are, it's hard to really tell because they're consistent at sometimes and then inconsistent at others. So it looks like this was definitely treated as support. This was also treated as support. This was treated as resistance. This blue one isn't treated as resistant yet. It was drawn later. The potential fail breakout pushes up, first entry short, or maybe a higher low, but this is also inside to this guy, pushes up and out, hits this resistance. So I like this as my trading range high because it's respecting it pretty well. What's ambiguous is this the low or is this the low? Presses down, pushes up, potential fail breakout. It just gets choppy, new low, first entry short. You don't really have it. You have a second entry short here, but it's far from the EMA. Now, I drew this as a preliminary, much lighter, because I wasn't sure. It was more like a red line, because it only has two confirmations. Pushes and pushes, tests the second time, now it's pushing back down. I'm wondering if it's going to bounce off this trading range high, but it finally goes through, creates your failed second entry long, localized high, first entry long pullback, second entry long. Second entry long here technically hasn't failed, but I thought it's a possible trade. Looks like it's coming from a double top and moving back into range. It's a strong push through the EMA on this candle, and this is a pretty decent signal bar. So if it opened here, I mean, you have to be kind of quick with it, entered, and you'd be in this trade and likely get your 1, maybe 2 point scalp. Prices move down, presses down. It's respecting this gray trading range support right now. Then it presses down further. So now it hits all the way down to here because keep in mind, this was the other trading range low that I think might have been in play. Creates a triple test here. So it's 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, but this is just a triple test. It doesn't convince me enough that there's a trade here. I need a higher low now to be convinced that prices are going back into potentially this gray trading range or into the range established by this guy. Starts pushing up. Unfortunately, you don't get the higher low till about here. But by the time this higher low forms and closes, it feels a little too late. It also creates a new low. It's a first entry short. Creates a second entry short. And I only marked it after the fact. I saw it. It's a break of the green up channel, test the high. I'm thinking an uptrend may have played out, could be coming back down. The reason I call it an almost trade is, keep in mind, this is where I was trading the range. I'm going to reverse this again. Push this back up to here. I was thinking if this is a push into this gray range, which is also another range right here, it might try to push to the other side. So this is a failed breakout. I'm reluctant to go short just yet. I need a higher low. The second entry short pushes down, pushes all the way down. This would have worked. Bounces. This could be my higher low bouncing off this support. But the follow through candle, which is this guy, didn't give me a lot of confidence. It didn't break above this guy, and it didn't break below. So this is just telling me it's congestion. Look at the size of these candles, they're pretty much side by side. And then, of course, this guy doesn't help at all. Starts pushing down, starts getting choppy, creates this higher low. I thought this higher low might have been a trade because it's a new high. Technically, a first entry long pullback, second entry long, creates this higher low, confirming the second entry long, moves below 1 tick, respects this trading range support, which, as I said, it's a little ambiguous. I mean, it's starting to show consistency, but early on, it's hard to know, is this going to be in play? Is this going to be in play? Is this dark blue line going to be in play? Or maybe this larger gray range is in play? But I thought there's a possible trade here. You have to be taking it on the engulfing, though, because once it closes up here, I'd be a little reluctant. It would have worked either way, though. Prices continue moving up. I'm looking for a test of the high. First entry long, pullback. You have a second entry long with a doji, so I'm not liking that. It's choppy, pushes up and out. Potentially another gigantic fail breakout. Regular green up channel has retraced too much, so I'm not so sure that it's going to test the highs of this. Plus, it looked like it was 1 leg, 2 leg, maybe a 3rd leg. It's a little confusing. They do have a visual first entry long, pullback. You might have a second entry long here, but I wasn't that keen on this signal bar. Then I thought there might be a failed second entry long because technically by the count, you have a first entry long pullback, second entry long potential failure. And it's coming in for a failed breakout. It could be moving back into here, but I have to be very careful. It's not going to bounce off of here. So I want to see a confirmation of this failed second entry long and then ideally lower high. But if you're more aggressive, you might want to take this trade. It would have worked. So I'm now looking for a lower high, ideally inside this trading range. But I don't like this signal bar as a potential lower high. There is no lower high now. There is a lower high here, so it pushes up, flushes down. I actually should have marked this. Potential lower high, but you would not have gotten triggered until right here. So it would have flushed down, pops around, gets a little noisy, pretty much bounces off of here. It's considered close enough. I consider it a bounce, but I'm expecting a break of this red down channel test low. It kind of looks like it's coming back down. I need to break below here. It does. Finally breaks below and breaks below this gray range. But again, there's this solid blue line to contend with because that might actually be the true low of the bigger range. Pushes down, actually touches inside bar, so I'm not a big fan of that. Pushes up, pushes back down. So now there's no trade. First entry short. Technically a second entry short, but there's a bad signal bar. You wouldn't have thought about taking a short there. Maybe there's going to be a failure. So technically a first entry short, second entry short may be a failure, but it doesn't look very clean. Pushes up. Now you have a clear failure, but I want a higher low now to confirm. You have your higher low here. When I see this in real time, I'm not ready to take this as a higher low and take it as a trade. Pushes up and out. Now moves up what I think is this orange up channel. Presses down. Technically, you have a new high, first entry long, pullback, second entry long. Seeing this in real time, I was thinking kind of maybe there's a second entry long here, but it looks a little congested. I don't have this yellow up channel support established yet, so it's hard to really treat it as a key entry point. When I get the second entry long, I'm looking for a higher low confirmation. By the time it gets up to here, I'm not looking for the higher low anymore. It felt like it's gone too far. It's already making new highs, new localized highs. Presses up. You do have a higher low here, but it's far from anything. First entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long here, but it's inside this guy, so no trade. Technically, you have a new low, first entry short, second entry short. And I saw maybe a localized high, first entry long, second entry long, but I called it an almost trade because it doesn't really look that clean. It is a bullish signal bar, but it's red. I can't claim to trust this EMA just yet. And at this point, I do have this yellow up channel established, at least as a potential support, because it really doesn't have many confirmations to the high side. So it's an almost trade. I didn't really see anything I like. Pushes up. Pushes up a nice gradual move. Technically a new high, first entry long, second entry long, inside bar, second entry long. Looks like it just made it. Then it looked like it's about to fail, but then it seems like it's in a range. Pushes up and out. You have a triple test, but I don't think there's a trade here because there's a failed breakout here. I was concerned a continuation to another failed breakout here and bounce off of this support, in which case if it's set up nicely, it would have been a nice long trade, but it doesn't do that. It just kind of keeps going. Creates a new high, first entry long pullback, second entry long almost trade because it doesn't have a good signal bar, but it does have a third touch confirmation. One touch, two touch, pretty much a third touch. It just needed to terminate better. I didn't like this big tail here. Presses up. It's getting a little noisy. Continues upwards. You have first entry long, pullback. You have a second entry long by the count, but it's below the EMA. It looks like it might have a correction. Localized low. And it's already pushing the last 15 minutes. It's a first entry short. Technically, you have a second entry short here by the count, but it's not very clean. Second entry short, I mean, you're not going to be short on a clearly bullish reversal now. Pushes down. You only have first entry. Looks like it's moving up this red up channel. But again, if you look at the timestamp down here, it feels like it's too late to try to take any kind of trade now. Just kind of sideways consolidation into the close. So kind of how I saw the trades today. Early on, for a good portion of the day, maybe first couple of hours, first 3 hours, I wasn't really sure where my range was. I didn't want to extend the high of the range too high or too quickly, and then kind of get bit. But then it was looking like it was playing off of these intermediate bounce and resistance points. So other than that, I was pretty happy. I got at least one trade in that was profitable, didn't take a loss. And then these other ones, I felt like they're almost trades. Probably watch a few other YouTube videos of people I'm learning from and see how they kind of marked up the chart. But I'm curious to see if some of these arrows that I marked might have been actual trades, or if what I marked are what they would consider no trades at all. Like they don't even give it a second thought. So hopefully that was helpful.